Owen Reed wiped grease from his hands onto his already filthy jumpsuit and stared at the blinking red warning light. Sector 12 had problems again. Nothing new there. Waypoint Station Gamma 7 always had problems somewhere. With 50,000 residents from a dozen different species, something broke every hour. "Reed, you seeing this?" Liara's voice crackled through his headset. The Tetheran engineer sounded annoyed, which meant her mandibles were probably clicking together rapidly. Owen had learned to read her moods over the past 3 years. "Yeah, I got it. Atmospheric processor acting up again? 3rd time this month. Commander Salas wants it fixed properly this time. No more temporary solutions." Owen grabbed his toolkit and headed toward the maintenance shaft. Properly. Everyone always wanted things done properly. But proper took time, and time meant someone somewhere wasn't breathing right or sweating through their environmental suit. Quick fixes kept people alive. Proper fixes could wait. The maintenance tunnels under Sector 12 were older than most of the station. Waypoint Gamma 7 had been built in stages over 2 centuries. The core sections came first, constructed by species whose names Owen couldn't even pronounce. Later additions bolted on like mechanical barnacles. Nobody really knew what lay beneath everything anymore. Owen squeezed through a narrow passage that hadn't been designed for human proportions. His shoulders scraped against the walls. The air grew colder. Down here, away from the inhabited sections, the station showed its age. Rust and corrosion marked every surface. Warning labels in 6 dead languages flickered under his flashlight. The atmospheric processor sat in a chamber the size of a cargo bay. Massive pipes fed into it from all directions. The machine hummed and wheezed, struggling to filter and recycle air for 3,000 residents above. Owen pulled up the diagnostics on his portable screen. "That's weird," he muttered. The readings made no sense. According to the scanner, the processor was operating at minimum capacity, barely functional. But the energy signature coming from it was enormous, like it was trying to do something else entirely. Owen walked around the machine looking for obvious damage. Everything seemed normal until he noticed the panel. It sat flush against the processor's base, nearly invisible. Owen had repaired this machine 6 times and never seen that panel before. He knelt down and ran his fingers along its edges. The metal felt different, smoother, ancient. "Liara, you got the original blueprints for this processor?" Static crackled for a moment. "Checking. Why?" "Because I'm looking at a component that shouldn't exist." More static. Then Liara's voice came back, sharp with confusion. "Owen, the blueprints only go back 80 years. This processor was installed when they expanded Sector 12. Standard Tetheran manufacture. Well, someone forgot to tell this panel. It's definitely not Tetheran." Owen pried at the panel with his multi-tool. It resisted at first, then suddenly clicked open. Inside, crystalline circuits glowed faintly in patterns that hurt his eyes. The technology was nothing like anything he'd seen before. Definitely not standard issue. He took several photos and sent them to Liara. Her response came quickly. "Don't touch anything. I'm calling Dr. Cross, and too late. I need to figure out why this thing is choking." Owen studied the crystalline circuits. They pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost biological. Several connections had degraded, their light dimming. He recognized the pattern. Whatever this technology was, it needed power flowing through specific pathways. Simple enough concept, even if the execution looked alien. He pulled wire and connectors from his toolkit. Standard human equipment designed for human machines, probably not compatible with ancient alien technology. But Owen had learned long ago that electricity was electricity. Everything needed power. Everything needed complete circuits. "Just need to bridge these connections," he whispered, talking to himself like he always did when working. "Power goes here, returns there. Basic stuff." He stripped wire with his teeth and began jury-rigging connections between the dying circuits. The crystalline patterns flickered as he worked. Several times the whole system threatened to shut down completely. Come on. Please don't stop." Owen twisted the final connection into place and held his breath. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the crystals blazed with light. The entire panel hummed. Energy surged through his improvised connections, and the atmospheric processor roared to life. The change was immediate. The machine's struggling wheeze transformed into a powerful, steady rhythm. The temperature in the chamber dropped as the processor began working at full capacity. Owen's scanner went crazy, showing readings that climbed higher and higher. "Owen, what did you do?" Liara's voice cracked with alarm. "I'm showing massive power spikes from your location." "I fixed it." "Fixed it?" The processor is operating at 340% normal capacity. That's impossible. Owen looked at the glowing panel. The crystalline circuits pulsed steadily now, brighter than before. His wire and connector work looked crude compared to the elegant alien technology, but it worked. That's all that mattered. Impossible or not, people can breathe better now. I'm heading back up. He closed the panel and gathered his tools. Behind him, the processor continued its powerful new rhythm. The sound echoed through the maintenance tunnels deeper and stronger than before. Owen felt vibrations through the floor, like the station itself was waking up. On his way back through the tunnels, he noticed something strange. Other panels, identical to the one he'd opened, lined the walls at regular intervals. They glowed faintly now, responding to something. Owen stopped and stared. These panels had always been here, he realized. Hidden in plain sight. Everyone just thought they were part of the station's structure. His headset crackled. Owen, return to the main engineering deck immediately. Commander Salas wants to see you. The tone in Liara's voice made Owen nervous. He'd heard that tone before, usually right before someone got written up for safety violations. On my way. He climbed back toward the inhabited sections, but couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just done something more significant than fix a broken processor. The vibrations in the floor continued, spreading outward from Sector 12. Other machines in other sections were waking up, responding to whatever he'd activated. Owen emerged from the maintenance shaft to find Liara waiting. Her forearms were crossed and her mandibles clicked rapidly, definitely annoyed. Next time, she said, when I tell you to wait for Dr. Cross, you wait. Did it work, though? That's not the point, but it was the point, Owen thought. Results mattered more than procedure. People needed air. He'd given them air. Simple as that. Except nothing about what he'd just done was simple. And as he followed Liara toward the commander's office, Owen wondered if maybe, just this once, he should have waited. 3 hours after Owen fixed the atmospheric processor, systems across the station started behaving strangely. Emergency lights in Sector 9 activated without cause. Gravity plates in the commercial district fluctuated by 0.03%. A water recycler that had been scheduled for replacement suddenly operated like new. Commander Salas sat behind his desk, his amphibious skin shifting through colors that Owen had learned meant displeasure. Blue-green fading to gray. Not good. Dr. Nina Cross stood beside the desk, her expression unreadable. Liara occupied the corner, her forearms still crossed. Explain what you did, Salas said. His voice came out as a wet rasp. Owen shifted his weight. The processor had failing connections. I bridged them with standard wiring. Got the power flowing again. Standard wiring. Salas blinked his triple eyelids slowly. You used human equipment on an unidentified alien system. It worked, didn't it? That's not the concern right now. Dr. Cross stepped forward, holding a tablet. Owen, show me exactly which connections you repaired. Owen took the tablet and sketched out the crystalline circuit pattern from memory. His drawing was rough but accurate enough. Dr. Cross studied it for several seconds, her eyes widening. This is precursor technology. The room went silent. Even Liara's mandibles stopped clicking. Precursor was a word everyone knew, but nobody wanted to hear. The ancient civilization that had built structures across the galaxy before vanishing 10,000 years ago. Their technology was legendary, powerful, and completely beyond modern understanding. You're saying this station is built on precursor ruins? Salas stood up, his color shifting to alarmed yellow, not ruins. Active technology. Dr. Cross pulled up data on the wall screen. Look at these readings. Since Owen completed his repair, we've detected energy signatures matching precursor patterns in 47 locations across the station. Systems we thought were ours, part of our construction, are actually much older. They've been dormant and now they're waking up. Owen felt his stomach sink. I just wanted people to breathe easier. And you accomplished that, Dr. Cross said. The atmospheric processor is working better than it ever has. But you also triggered something. These precursor systems were waiting for the right activation sequence. Your improvised repair somehow provided it. Liara spoke up, her voice tight with concern. Waiting for what? Nobody had an answer. The screen continued to display spreading energy patterns, like a web of light expanding through the station's infrastructure. Each glowing point represented another awakening system, another piece of ancient technology responding to Owen's simple repair. Shut it down, Salas ordered. Reverse whatever Reed did. I don't think we can, Dr. Cross said quietly. The systems are integrating with our technology. Separating them now could cause catastrophic failures. Then isolate them. Cut power to those sections. Commander, these systems run underneath our entire foundation. Cutting power means cutting life support to over half the station. Salas's skin went dark purple. He turned to Owen with eyes that reflected both anger and helplessness. You've put 50,000 lives at risk. He didn't know, Liara interjected. None of us knew that technology was there. Ignorance isn't an excuse for violating safety protocols. Owen wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. He'd broken the rules because rules slowed things down. He'd trusted his instincts because instincts had never failed him before. Now those same instincts might have triggered something dangerous and irreversible. The next morning, Owen found himself confined to quarters while the station's leadership debated his fate. He watched news feeds showing the growing panic among residents. Representatives from different species were demanding answers. Some called for immediate evacuation. Others insisted on military intervention to contain the precursor technology. A knock at his door interrupted his brooding. Liara entered without waiting for permission, carrying 2 drinks. She handed one to Owen. Keltar root tea. Your people find it tolerable, yes? Thanks. Owen sipped the bitter liquid. Come to yell at me? I've been analyzing your repair work. Liara sat down, her multiple limbs folding into a complex resting position. It shouldn't have worked. The power requirements? The frequency matching, the circuit integration. By every engineering principle I know, your improvised connections should have failed immediately. But they didn't. No. They adapted. The precursor systems modified themselves to accept your human technology. They wanted to work with what you gave them. Owen processed this. Why would ancient alien technology care about human wiring? That's the question Dr. Cross is investigating. Liara pulled up data on her own tablet. She's found references in precursor archaeological sites. They were obsessed with adaptability and chaos theory. Their entire civilization valued flexibility over rigid structure. The opposite of how my people think. The opposite of how most species think, Owen said. Humans are weird like that. We improvise. We make things work even when they shouldn't. It drives everyone crazy. Perhaps that's exactly what this technology needed. Liara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Tethran engineers follow precise protocols. We would never have attempted your repair method. We would have replaced the entire unit with certified equipment. Would that have worked? It would have kept the processor running at basic levels, but it wouldn't have awakened the underlying precursor network. Liara leaned forward. Owen, I think you didn't break something. I think you fixed something that's been broken for 10,000 years. Before Owen could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. His quarters comm system activated automatically, showing Commander Salas's face. All personnel, emergency alert. We've detected a spatial anomaly forming 3,000 kilometers from the station. Unknown energy signature, massive scale. This is not a drill. Owen and Liara rushed to the window. In the distance, space itself seemed to tear. A crack of purple-black light spread across the stars, widening slowly. Energy crackled around its edges. Whatever was coming through that rift, it was big. The precursor systems, Liara whispered. They're responding. Owen could feel it through the station's floor. Vibrations that matched the pulse of the crystalline circuits he'd repaired. The ancient technology wasn't just waking up. It was preparing for something. The awakened network pulsed faster, drawing more power, activating systems that had slept for millennia. His personal comm chimed. Dr. Cross's voice came through, urgent and breathless. Owen, I need you in the research lab immediately. I found something in the precursor data archives. Something about that rift. It's happened before, and the precursors built this station specifically to stop it. Stop what? I'll explain when you get here. Just move. We don't have much time. Owen looked at Liara. She nodded once, and they both ran for the door. Behind them, through the window, the rift continued to expand. Something massive stirred in its depths, sensing the awakened station with what felt like ancient hunger. Whatever Owen had activated, whatever chain of events his simple repair had triggered, it was about to become everyone's problem. Dr. Nina Cross's research lab looked like organized chaos. 3 wall screens displayed different data streams while holographic projections of precursor symbols rotated in the center of the room. Nina herself stood surrounded by floating tablets, her fingers dancing between them as she compiled information. The precursors called them devourers. she said without preamble when Owen and Liara arrived. Entities from subspace that feed on organized matter. They consume everything structured, everything predictable. Owen stared at the images Nina pulled up. Ancient precursor artwork showed massive shapes emerging from darkness, dissolving entire worlds into entropy. And the station was built to stop them? Not just stop. Defend against. The precursors knew the Devourers would return eventually. They built sentinel stations throughout the galaxy, each one equipped with defensive systems. Nina gestured to a schematic that looked like the station's layout. Waypoint Gamma 7 isn't a waypoint at all. It's a weapon. Liara's mandibles clicked rapidly. Then why didn't it activate when we detected the rift? Because it needs a specific type of interaction to function. Nina pulled up neurological scans, human and alien side by side. I've been studying your repair work, Owen. The precursor systems responded to your neural patterns in ways they don't respond to other species. I tested this with volunteers. When Tethran engineers interface with the technology, nothing happens. When Orvan technicians try, the systems remain dormant. But humans, we get a reaction. Why humans? Owen asked. Because of how we think. Nina displayed brain activity patterns. Other species evolved to find patterns and follow them. It's efficient. It's logical. But humans, we're different. Our brains constantly search for new solutions. We improvise. We break rules. We create chaos and call it creativity. The precursors were the same, Liara said softly, understanding dawning. Their archaeological sites always confused my people. Nothing follows standard architectural patterns. Every structure seems random yet functional. Exactly. The precursors valued adaptability above all else. They built technology that required chaotic, unpredictable input to operate. Nina turned to Owen. Your improvised repair worked because you didn't follow protocols. You saw a problem and invented a solution on the spot. That's what the precursor systems were waiting for. That's what they needed. Owen felt the weight of this realization. So I accidentally proved humans were compatible with their technology. More than compatible, essential. Nina pulled up new data showing the awakened systems across the station. Since your repair, I've noticed something else. The precursor network responds stronger when multiple humans interact with it. I tested this theory with maintenance crews in different sectors. Every time a human makes an adjustment, even minor ones, the network integrates it faster and more efficiently than any calculated input. The lab shook slightly. Through the windows, the rift had grown larger. Purple-black energy crackled across its surface like lightning. How long until something comes through? Liara asked. Hours, maybe less. Nina's expression was grim. And when it does, our weapons won't work. Devourers feed on predictable patterns. Every weapon system we have, every defense grid, follows calculated firing solutions. The Devourers will adapt and absorb them instantly. But the precursor defenses won't follow patterns, Owen said, seeing the logic. They need chaotic input. Human input. That's my theory. But I can't prove it without activating the full defense network. Commander Salas burst into the lab, his skin flushed with stress colors. Dr. Cross, I need answers. Half the council representatives are demanding we evacuate. The other half want to shut down all precursor systems immediately. Evacuation would take days we don't have, Nina said. And shutting down the precursor systems would leave us defenseless. Defenseless against what? We have military ships stationed nearby, weapons platforms, shields, none of which will work against what's coming. Nina showed him the historical data. The Devourers destroyed the precursor civilization because the precursors became too rigid in their thinking. They optimized themselves into predictability. The Devourers consumed them. Salas stared at the images, his triple eyelids blinking in distress. You're telling me our standard defenses are worse than useless? I'm telling you we need to do something the Devourers won't expect. Something chaotic and unpredictable. We need to activate the defense network, Owen said. All of it. And we need humans running it. Absolutely not, Salas snapped. I won't trust the station's survival to improvisation. You already did when you hired human mechanics, Liara pointed out. Owen's methods have solved problems I couldn't. Problems my people's protocols couldn't address. Perhaps that's exactly what we need now. An explosion rocked the station. Alerts screamed across every channel. On the screens, the rift tore wider. Something vast pushed through from the other side, its form defying easy description. It looked like a hole in reality shaped roughly like a creature. All wrong angles and impossible geometry. Devourer emergence detected, the computer announced calmly. Impact with station defenses in 40 minutes. Salus's skin cycled through colors rapidly. Fear, anger, desperation all mixed together. Finally, he settled on resigned gray. Dr. Cross, if you're wrong about this, we're all dead. If I'm wrong, we're dead anyway. At least this gives us a chance. Fine. Activate whatever you need to activate. Reed, you're in charge of the human engineering teams. Do whatever it is you do. Owen nodded and opened his comm to station-wide human frequencies. All human maintenance personnel, report to your nearest precursor access point. Bring your tools. We're going to fix this station properly. Across Waypoint Gamma 7, 200 human engineers, mechanics, and technicians responded. They'd spent years being told their methods were sloppy, their approaches inefficient, their improvisation unprofessional. Now suddenly, those exact traits were exactly what everyone needed. Owen led Liara and Nina back to Sector 12, to the atmospheric processor where everything started. The crystalline panel glowed brighter now, pulsing with urgent energy. He could feel the precursor network waiting, ready for human chaos to wake it fully. How do we do this? He asked Nina. Honestly, I have no idea. The precursor data doesn't include instructions. I think we're supposed to figure it out ourselves. Owen laughed despite the situation. So improvise. That's very on brand. He opened the panel and stared at the crystalline circuits. More complex than before, they'd grown in response to his earlier repair. New pathways had formed, spreading through the station's infrastructure like roots. Each one pulsed with potential, waiting for human interaction. Owen reached out and touched the crystals. Energy flowed into him, not painful but overwhelming. Information flooded his mind. Station schematics, defense networks, weapon systems that made no logical sense. He understood none of it intellectually, but somehow knew exactly what needed to happen. I see it, he whispered. The whole network. It needs all of us connected. Other humans across the station reported similar experiences. Each one touched a precursor access point and suddenly knew their role in the larger system. No training, no protocols, just instant understanding born from human intuition and the precursor technology's adaptability. The defense network came alive, piece by piece as humans interfaced with it across dozens of locations, and outside the devourer drew closer, sensing the awakening power with what might have been anticipation or hunger. The moment all 200 humans connected to the precursor network, something extraordinary happened. The station's walls themselves came alive with light. Crystalline patterns emerged from surfaces everyone had thought were simple metal and composite. They spread like veins of pure energy, connecting every section, every level, transforming the station into one massive integrated organism. In the command center, Commander Salus watched in stunned silence as holographic displays activated that had never existed before. Ancient precursor projections filled the air, showing historical records in formats that bypassed language entirely. Images, emotions, and pure information flowed directly into the minds of everyone present. The precursors appeared first. They looked nothing like any known species. Tall, crystalline beings composed of the same energy that ran through their technology. But their forms were never static. Each precursor constantly shifted, changed, reformed. No pattern, no consistency, just continuous adaptation. They were made of chaos, Nina whispered, translating what everyone felt. That was their nature. The historical record played out in accelerated time. The precursors had built a vast civilization across thousands of worlds. They created wonders through unpredictable innovation. Every structure, every device was unique. They celebrated randomness and creativity. Their greatest achievement was learning to merge their consciousness with their technology, creating a network of pure, adaptable intelligence. But then came pride. The precursors grew confident. They believed their mastery of chaos made them invincible. They optimized their systems for efficiency. They created standards. They developed protocols. Slowly, subtly, they became predictable. That's when the devourers found them. The images showed the first attack. Reality tore open and entities emerged that existed opposite to normal matter. Where the precursors represented chaotic creativity, the devourers embodied consuming entropy. They fed on patterns, on structure, on anything organized. The more predictable something was, the easier they could dissolve it. The precursors fought back with weapons that followed calculated firing solutions. The Devourers absorbed them. They built shields with regular geometric patterns. The Devourers broke through. Everything the precursors tried failed because everything had become too orderly, too logical, too predictable. World after world fell. The precursor network showed the desperation of a dying civilization. They tried to return to pure chaos but couldn't. They'd spent so long optimizing that they'd forgotten how to be truly random. Their technology remained powerful, but their thinking had crystallized into patterns the Devourers could exploit. In their final days, the precursors made a decision. They would seed the galaxy with defensive stations, each one equipped with technology that required chaotic input to function. Then they would scatter their consciousness across the universe, hiding in subspace, hoping that someday a species would emerge that still knew how to embrace productive chaos. They were waiting for us, Owen said, feeling the truth of it, for humans. The holographic record showed the construction of Waypoint Gamma 7 and hundreds of stations like it, each one positioned near potential devourer emergence points, each one waiting dormant for 10,000 years, unable to activate because every species that found them tried to use them logically, until a human mechanic ignored safety protocols and just made something work. The record ended with a final message, translated directly into understanding rather than words. The defense system would respond to chaos. It would protect against the Devourers, but only if operated by beings who could think truly unpredictably, beings who broke rules not from malice but from creative necessity. Commander Salas stood silent for a long moment. Around him, representatives from a dozen species processed what they'd witnessed. Finally, he spoke, his voice carefully controlled. Our entire civilization is built on order, on protocols and predictability. Those same principles are useless against this threat. Worse than useless, Nina added. The Devourers feed on order. Our weapons would make them stronger. But the human approach, this improvisation, this chaos would work. It's the only thing that has worked. The precursors learned that too late. Outside the command center across the station, humans remained connected to the precursor network. Owen could feel all of them, 200 minds linked through ancient technology. Each person maintained their individuality, but shared in a collective awareness. No two people thought exactly alike. No pattern emerged. It was beautiful chaos. Through the network, Owen sensed the Devourer drawing closer. It moved through space like ink spreading through water, dissolving everything it touched. Meteors vanished. Stray debris simply ceased to exist. The entity wasn't malicious. It was hungry. And the station, with its thousands of residents following predictable routines, must have seemed like an enormous feast. 30 minutes until contact, a Tethran tactical officer reported. Should I activate conventional weapons? No, Nina said quickly. The precursor defenses are ready. We just need to trust them. Trust improvisation to save us all, Salas muttered. Never thought I'd see the day. Liara had been studying her instruments, comparing precursor technology with Tethran engineering principles. Now she looked up, her mandibles still for once. Commander, I have a recommendation. Go ahead. Give complete control to the humans. No oversight, no approval process. Let them operate the defense network however they see fit. That violates every safety regulation we have. Yes, that's exactly why it will work. Liara gestured to her data. I've been analyzing their methods for years. Human engineers don't follow linear problem solving. They jump between solutions, try impossible things, succeed through sheer unpredictability. It frustrates me endlessly. But against an enemy that feeds on predictability, it's perfect. Several species representatives objected immediately. The idea of giving unilateral control to one species violated the station's charter. Humans were the newest members of galactic civilization, barely 2 generations beyond their first warp flight. They couldn't be trusted with everyone's survival, but the Devourer didn't care about politics. It came closer every second and no one had better solutions. Fine, Salas said, overriding the objections. Reed, the defense network is yours. No protocols, no approval needed. Do whatever you think necessary. Owen felt the weight of that responsibility. 200 humans connected to the network. 50,000 lives depending on his chaotic approach working. He opened his awareness fully to the precursor systems, feeling their readiness, their eagerness for unpredictable input. The defense network wasn't like normal weapons. It didn't have targeting computers or firing solutions. Instead, it had potential, raw energy waiting to be shaped by creative thought. Every human connected could direct that energy however they imagined. No two attacks would be the same. No pattern would emerge. Everyone ready? Owen asked through the network. 200 voices responded affirmatively, each one different, each one bringing their unique perspective. Engineers and maintenance workers, technicians and repair specialists. People who'd spent their careers being told they were too messy, too unpredictable, too human. Now those exact traits were about to save everyone. The Devourer entered weapons range, and Owen gave the only order that made sense. Do whatever feels right. The first human to fire was a maintenance worker named Ben from Sector 9. He'd never used a weapon in his life, but through the precursor network, he felt the defense grid like an extension of his own hands. He didn't aim or calculate. He just pushed energy outward in whatever pattern felt interesting. A spiral of blue light erupted from the station, twisted into impossible geometry, and slammed into the Devourer. The entity recoiled, its form disrupting where the energy struck. For a brief moment, solid matter appeared where the Devourer had been, as if the attack had forced reality back into existence. It worked, Nina breathed. The chaotic pattern forced the Devourer to take physical form. Ben fired again, but this time with a different pattern. Completely different. No repetition, no predictability. The Devourer tried to adapt, but couldn't find a pattern to counter. More humans joined in. Each one fired in their own unique way. Spirals, waves, pulses, beams that curved for no logical reason, energy that flickered between states randomly. The Devourer found itself under assault from 200 different attack patterns that never repeated. Every time it began to adapt to one type of energy, that human would switch to something completely different. No coordination, no strategy, just pure creative chaos. In the command center, species representatives watched in amazement. The tactical displays showed firing solutions that made no mathematical sense, energy beams that followed impossible trajectories, shields that formed random geometric shapes that shouldn't have provided protection, but somehow did. This is madness, a Tethran military observer said. Yes, Liara agreed. Beautiful, effective madness. The Devourer pushed forward, trying to reach the station despite the barrage. Its form rippled and changed, searching for a pattern in the chaos. But there was no pattern. Humans didn't think in patterns when they were being creative. They thought in possibilities and what-ifs and why not try this. Owen felt one human, a woman named Rachel who normally repaired waste recyclers, shape energy into an attack that looked like abstract art. It shouldn't have been a weapon. It was just pretty, flowing colors with no purpose. But when it hit the Devourer, the entity screamed. Sound that shouldn't exist in vacuum carried through space on waves of distorted reality. Keep going, Owen encouraged through the network. Don't think about what should work. Just do whatever feels right. The Devourer tried a different approach. It split into multiple smaller entities, each one attempting to attack the station from different angles. This should have overwhelmed any defense. But humans didn't follow logical defensive protocols. Half of them ignored the closest threats to fire at distant ones. Others targeted empty space where they felt something might appear. One person shot at nothing at all just because the pattern of stars looked interesting. Somehow, impossibly, it worked. The Devourer fragments found every attack vector blocked by chaotic defensive fire. The human who shot at empty space hit a Devourer piece that was trying to phase through normal space at that exact location. Pure luck, or maybe intuition working through the precursor network. But the Devourer was learning. It started to recognize individual humans through their attack patterns. Owen felt it reaching toward Ben, targeting him specifically because he'd been the first to fire. The entity moved to consume him through the network connection. Ben, disconnect, Owen shouted. Too late. The Devourer touched Ben's mind through the network. For a horrible moment, Owen felt Ben's thoughts beginning to dissolve into entropy. But then something unexpected happened. Ben didn't try to fight logically. He didn't try to maintain his thoughts in ordered patterns. Instead, he let his mind go completely chaotic. Random memories, wild associations, nonsense thoughts all tumbling together. The devourer couldn't feed on that. It needed pattern, needed structure. Ben's completely disorganized thoughts were indigestible. The entity withdrew, confused and weakened. Did he just win by thinking about random things? Nina asked. He thought about his grandmother's cookie recipe, the time he broke his arm as a kid, and the color blue all at the same time, Owen reported. Complete stream of consciousness chaos. Incredible. The human mind as a defensive weapon. More devourer fragments tried to attack through the network. Each time, humans defended by thinking about anything and everything simultaneously. Work schedules mixed with childhood memories, mixed with what they wanted for dinner, mixed with song lyrics. Completely useless information, completely disorganized, completely effective. The main devourer entity realized it couldn't win through the network. It pushed forward physically, accepting damage from the chaotic weapons fire to get close enough to the station to begin dissolving it directly. Sections of the outer hull started to shimmer, reality breaking down under the devourer's presence. Owen felt panic ripple through the human network. They were hurting the devourer, slowing it, but not stopping it. The entity was too massive, too powerful. Even chaos had limits. His connection to the network wavered. The crystalline panel he was touching heated up, overloading from the sustained energy drain. Owen smelled burning insulation. His vision blurred. Other humans reported similar problems. The precursor systems were 10,000 years old. They weren't designed to operate at this intensity for this long. We're losing power, someone reported. Systems failing across multiple sectors. Owen looked at the panel, at his crude wire and connector repairs holding together technology beyond human understanding. It was failing. His improvised fix wasn't enough for this level of demand. He needed to reinforce the connections, needed to channel more power more efficiently. But if he let go to make repairs, he'd break his connection to the network. His contribution to the chaos defense would cease. Other humans were having the same problem. Systems breaking down, requiring immediate attention, but no one able to disconnect to fix them. Owen, your connection is destabilizing, Nina warned. I'm reading dangerous feedback levels. I can hold it. Not for long. The network is burning out. All of you are burning out. She was right. Owen could feel it. 200 humans pushing themselves beyond safe limits, channeling power that human bodies weren't meant to handle. Some were already collapsing, their minds overwhelmed by the connection. The precursor technology kept them alive but couldn't protect them from the strain forever. The devourer sensed their weakness and surged forward. Its form expanded, growing larger as it prepared to consume the entire station in one massive attack. This was it. Final moment. Either the humans found more power or everyone died. Owen felt his connection failing. The panel under his hand sparked. His vision went dark at the edges. He was going to pass out, going to fail. All because he'd made a repair that wasn't good enough for what they needed. Please, he whispered to the precursor network, to the ancient technology, to whatever consciousness remained in the system. Please don't stop. And something answered. Not words, not even thoughts, just recognition. The precursor network had been waiting 10,000 years for beings who understood creative chaos, for beings who improvised and adapted and never gave up trying impossible things. It had found those beings. It would not let them fail now. Power surged through the station, not from the 200 connected humans, but from somewhere else. The precursor network reached out across space, drawing on reserves hidden throughout the galaxy. Every dormant Sentinel station activated simultaneously, feeding their power back to waypoint Gamma 7 through channels that transcended normal physics. Owen's panel blazed with light. His crude repairs held, reinforced now by the full might of precursor technology optimized over 10,000 years. Every human felt the same boost. Failing systems restored, burning connections cooled, wavering consciousnesses stabilized. And the defense network reached full potential for the first time since the precursor civilization fell. The power flowing through the network was beyond anything Owen had imagined. He could feel connections spanning light years, Every precursor sentinel station across the galaxy feeding energy back to this single point. 200 humans became 200 channels for power accumulated over 10 millennia. They fired as one, yet every attack was different. A wave of chaotic energy erupted from waypoint Gamma 7 that made the previous barrage look like practice shots. The Devourer tried to adapt, tried to find patterns, but faced with the combined creative output of human consciousness backed by precursor technology, it had no chance. The entity began to destabilize. Its form, which had already been wrong angles and impossible geometry, started breaking apart into something even less comprehensible. Where the chaotic energy touched it, reality reasserted itself violently. Explosions of matter formation scattered across space as entropy reversed. Owen felt others joining the network. Not just the 200 who'd connected first, but every human on the station. Families, children, workers who'd never touched a precursor panel. They felt the call through proximity to the awakened technology and responded instinctively. 5,000 human minds, each one contributing their unique perspective, their individual chaos to the defense. No training needed, no instructions required. Humans understood creativity naturally. A child imagined energy as paint splatter, a chef shaped power like mixing ingredients. An artist sculpted attacks as flowing motion. Every metaphor, every personal interpretation added to the beautiful chaos that the Devourer couldn't consume. The entity fled. It retreated back toward the rift in space, unable to sustain itself against coordinated unpredictability. The humans pursued, not with calculated precision, but with enthusiastic improvisation. They chased the Devourer through the rift itself, pushing chaotic energy into subspace where the entities spawned. The rift sealed behind their attack, reality closing like a healing wound. Sensors showed the Devourer presence diminishing, dissolving back into whatever dimension it came from. The ancient threat, the civilization killer that had destroyed the precursors, had been driven off by 200 maintenance workers who'd figured out how to weaponize their creativity. Owen collapsed, his connection to the network finally breaking. Around him, the crystalline panel dimmed to a gentle glow. Across the station, other humans similarly disconnected, exhausted but alive. The precursor defense systems powered down to standby levels, satisfied that the threat had passed. In the medical bay 3 hours later, Owen woke to find Nina checking his vital signs. She smiled when she saw him conscious. "You're going to be fine." "Exhausted, but fine. Everyone is. Did we win?" "Completely. The Devourer is gone. Every sensor confirms it fled back to subspace. And according to the precursor network, it won't return. We mark this location as defended by chaos. The Devourers avoid such places." Owen sat up slowly, his head spinning. "What about the station? The residents?" "Everyone survived. No casualties beyond some minor injuries from people falling when they connected to the network too fast." Nina helped him stand. "Commander Salas wants to see you. So does pretty much everyone else." The command center was packed when Owen arrived. Representatives from every species on the station filled the room. Liara stood with other Tethran engineers. Commander Salas waited at the center, his skin showing colors Owen had never seen before. Bright, almost cheerful patterns. "Reed," Salas began, his voice formal. "You violated safety protocols, ignored direct orders, made repairs using unapproved methods, connected civilians to unknown technology without authorization." Owen braced himself for punishment. "And you saved us all." Salas's colors shifted to warm orange. "The Galactic Council has been informed of the incident. They're sending representatives to study what happened here, but I wanted to tell you personally, on behalf of everyone on this station, thank you." The room erupted in applause, not just from humans but from every species present. Even the Tethran engineers, who'd spent years correcting Owen's sloppy work, clicked their mandibles in approval. "I just wanted people to breathe better," Owen said, overwhelmed. "You did much more than that," Liara said, stepping forward. "You showed us that there's value in approaches we don't understand. That efficiency isn't always the answer. That sometimes chaos creates better results than order." Over the following weeks, Waypoint Gamma 7 transformed. The precursor technology remained active, integrated now with station systems. Scientists from across the galaxy arrived to study it. Dr. Cross established a research center dedicated to understanding precursor culture and technology, with humans serving as essential staff members. The station's charter was rewritten. New protocols acknowledged that some problems required creative solutions that couldn't be standardized. Human engineers found their methods no longer dismissed but actively sought after. Other species began learning to think more flexibly, to question rigid protocols, to embrace productive chaos. Owen returned to his regular job, but now his repairs carried new significance. Every improvised fix, every rule bent in the name of getting things working, contributed data to the precursor network. The ancient technology continued learning human creativity, growing stronger through each interaction. 1 month after the Devourer attack, Owen stood once again in front of the atmospheric processor in Sector 12. The crystalline panel glowed softly, its patterns more complex than ever. His crude wire and connector work remained, integrated now with precursor circuits that had grown around them, like the technology was proud of the hybrid solution. Liara found him there, studying his own repairs. "Nostalgic?" she asked, just thinking. "I fixed this because it was broken. Didn't think about anything beyond that. Now it's part of something bigger. That's the human gift, I think. You don't worry about the bigger picture when something needs fixing. You just fix it." Liara placed one of her 4 hands on the panel. "My people could learn from that. We spend so much time planning perfect solutions that we forget to just do something. Your people's planning saved us too," Owen pointed out. The precursor network needed human chaos, but it also needed Tethran precision to interpret the data. Everyone contributed. True, perhaps the real lesson is balance. Chaos and order working together, Owen smiled. That sounds very diplomatic. I've been practicing. The council appointed me as liaison for precursor technology research. I'll be working with your Dr. Cross teaching humans about proper safety protocols. Good luck with that. I know, it's impossible, but I'm learning to appreciate impossible tasks. Liara's mandibles clicked in what Owen had learned was her version of laughter. Someone once told me that impossible just means nobody's tried the right wrong way yet. I don't think I said it that elegantly. You were unconscious from power feedback at the time. I'm paraphrasing. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the precursor technology pulse with steady light. Across the station, life returned to normal. Merchants traded. Ships docked and departed. Families went about their daily routines. But underneath it all, ancient technology hummed with renewed purpose, waiting patiently for the next time creative chaos would be needed. Owen's comm chimed with another maintenance request. Gravity fluctuations in Sector 6, probably something simple. He grabbed his toolkit and headed for the door. Following protocols this time? Liara called after him. Owen grinned. Where's the fun in that? Behind him, the precursor panel pulsed brighter, as if laughing at its own joke. 10,000 years of waiting had led to this. A universe where humans broke rules not from malice but from creative necessity, where chaos and order learned to work together, and where an ancient civilization's final hope had found exactly the champions it needed. In his workshop, surrounded by tools and spare parts and half-finished projects, Owen Reed got to work. Just another maintenance job on just another space station. Except now everyone understood that sometimes the most important fixes came from the people willing to improvise, adapt, and never stop trying impossible things. The precursor network would ensure humanity's creative chaos spread across the galaxy, awakening other sentinel stations, sharing human innovation with species who'd forgotten how to break their own rules. The Devourers might return someday, but they'd find a galaxy defended not by rigid military protocols but by beings who understood that the best solution to any problem was often the one nobody had tried. Yet, and it had all started, because one mechanic ignored safety protocols, made an improvised repair and whispered to failing technology the most human phrase possible: "Please don't stop." The universe had listened, and everything changed.